All right. It's not ESPN's 30 for 30. However, it is my 98 for 98. The 98 seasons in the history of the New York Football Giants. I'm going to try to get it done in 98 days. Going to fall a little bit short of that, but however, I will get it done by the beginning of the new season, which starts September 10th against those Dallas Cowboys. I'm with the 2019 season for the New York Giants, which just happened to be the 95th season in the history of the New York Giants, and a very special season indeed, because it just happened to be the 100th season in the history of the NFL. 100 history, because the NFL started in 1920, Giants started in 1925, so the Giants are 5 years younger than the NFL is, but very special season indeed. I said, the 100th season for the NFL. Wasn't such a special season for the New York Giants, because they actually got worse than than they did in 2018. This will also be the second and final season for the Pat Shurmur. Is his time with the New York Giants. It would be over. Thank God. It wasn't, but in a way, it was a special season, as we'll go along. But as far as wins and losses, no. Yeah, got it. We were 5-11 in 2018. And usually, they got a new coach coming in, a new regime and all that stuff. And it was a new GM, new coach, Dave Gettleman hired Pat Shurmur, and they were 5-11 2018. So you always give them another year, of course, but then this thing got a little worse, and things weren't looking too good. So he got canned. And then, of course, we brought in Joe Judge after that. Okay. And yeah. So these were some lean years for us Giant fans, but let's actually, to be honest, to be fair to Pat Shurmur, it didn't start off too bad. The season, or shall I say the preseason. Preseason was pretty good. The rest of the regular season was like the preseason. We'd be Super Bowl champs. But that's why it's preseason. Okay, so the 2019 New York Giants, their preseason. The first game, that was switched up a little bit, because usually the Giants play, and they played the Jets. A lot of times it was like the third game. Then they finish up by playing the fourth game against the New England Patriots. Well, this time they opened up against the New York Jets at home on Thursday, August 8th, and they would win 31-22. The following week, they played the Bears at home on Friday, August 16th. They played the Bears and they won 32-13. After they're done with all four, I'll show you. I got a little comment here. Then they went on the road on August 22nd. They played the Bengals, and they in Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio. Then they won 25-23. And then the final game, as they do many, many times, not this season, though, but on Thursday, August 29th, they were away. They went to Gillette Stadium, played the Patriots, and they would win 31-29. Now, they scored 31 points, 32 points, 25 points, and 31 points. They were scoring some points. Things were looking good. 4-0, and they were scoring some points. They gave up some points, but once again, it's all preseason, but hey, 4-0 is 4-0. We'll take 4-0. But as I said, it didn't it didn't continue. As we'll see in a few minutes here, right? What does Wikipedia what does Wikipedia have to say about the 2019 season for the New York Giants? The 2019 season was the Giants' 95th season in the National Football League. It was their 10th playing their home games at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and their second and, thank goodness, final season under head coach Pat Shurmur, who was fired after the final game of the regular season. During the season, they equaled the franchise record 9-game losing streak of the 1976 Giants. Oh, yeah. That's when they ushered in their new stadium, Giant Stadium, 1976. Bill Arnsparger was the coach in the beginning of that season, and he led the Giants to an 0-7. Then they took John McVay, and he came in, and his first two games were losses. But then they wind up winning 3 of their final 5 games, right? So they wound up finishing with a record of 3-11 in 1976. But yeah, they started off 0-9 that season. Yeah, it was not pretty at all. And they ultimately failed to improve upon their 5-11 campaign from 2018, and they finished with a record of 4-12, and in 3rd place in the NFC East for the first time since 1995. None of the team's players made the Pro Bowl. So I mean, that's even worse. Not even Saquon. So I mean, you got worse than you did the year before. You had a 9-game losing streak. I mean, nobody makes the Pro Bowl. I mean, things just got worse. The offseason saw some major changes to the Giants roster, with wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. and veteran linebacker Olivier Vernon being traded to the Browns, and Pro Bowl safety Landon Collins being lost to the Washington Redskins during free agency. Wide receiver Golden Tate was the biggest name signing, arriving from the Philadelphia Eagles as a free agent. After suffering defeats in the opening 2 games of the regular season, the Giants made a change at quarterback for the first time since 2004, with veteran Eli Manning being benched in favor of first-round draft selection Daniel Jones, right? With Jones injured, now this was later in the season, with Jones injured, Manning returned in weeks 14 and 15, getting a win in the latter game, to end the streak in what proved to be the final start of his 16-year career. It was against the Miami Dolphins at home. They pulled together, and they won one for the Gipper, right? As Eli announced his retirement soon after the end of the season. Manning started his last game on December 15, 2019, a 36-20 win over the Miami Dolphins. So it was a very special season, for Eli. We also brought in, obviously drafted Daniel Jones. We'll go over the draft picks. They had a lot of draft picks. There was some changes. Unfortunately, this was the season where we wound up trading away Odell Beckham. During the offseason, the Giants made several controversial changes to their roster, headlined by the trade of star wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. to the Cleveland Browns. The trade also sent veteran linebacker Olivier Vernon to the Browns, with the Giants receiving safety Jabrill Peppers and guard Kevin Zeitler in return, in addition to Cleveland's 1st round and 3rd round picks in the 2019 NFL Draft. So this is where we're going to go. We're going to go to next is the Giants draft, and they wind up, they quite a few draft picks here. Let's count here. How many picks did they have here? They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They had 10 picks. They had a lot of picks, and a couple of them are still actually on the roster. Quite a few of them still on the roster. Matter of fact, so of course their first pick overall, is Daniel Jones from Duke, right? I mean, we all know what happened there. There's a lot of negativity surrounding that. I mean, some people, a lot of people thought that, they were going to try to maybe get Daniel Jones. They didn't have to quite take him at number 6. A lot of people thought they could have got, because the Giants said actually they wound up with 3 draft picks in the 1st round, but we'll go over that in just a second. But they had picks 6 and 17. 17 was from the Browns, right? And a lot of people thought they could have got Daniel Jones with the 17th overall pick. However, they took him number 6, but we picked number 17. They wound up taking Sexy Dexy. So, as of right now, right, it didn't seem like that in the beginning. I mean, Dexter Lawrence always seemed like a decent pick, but Daniel Jones maybe maybe not always so much right off the bat or whatever. It was a lot of controversy there as far as taking him at number 6. But, it's between Sexy Dexy and Daniel Jones. They're still on the roster. And actually, this year, they both got paid. Sexy Dexy, I think it was like around 20. He got a contract for about $23 million a season. And Daniel Jones got paid $40 million a season. So they both got paid. So good for them. Then, of course, and then in the, let's see here. Here we go. All right, the Giants, they traded up back into the first round. Wound up being with the Seahawks. They traded up, and so they took their what did they trade up here? Okay, the Giants traded their second round pick. So the trade back into the first round. Okay, with the Seahawks, they traded their second round pick away, their fourth round pick away, and their fifth round pick away. And somehow they still had 10 picks. They traded 3 picks for 1, and they still had, apparently they were going to have at least 12 picks in this draft. But they went up with 10, but they traded 3 picks away to jump into back into the first round. They wound up being the 5th pick in the second round. And they jumped from the 5th pick in the second round to the third to last pick. So they jumped up 8 spots. And so in 8 spots, they had, to go from 37 down to 30. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots. I do apologize. So to jump up 7 spots, they had to trade away their second, their fourth, and their fifth round picks. So, but they took DeAndre Baker, and absolute horrible. I mean, let's see here. Absolutely horrible. He played 1 season. I don't know what it is. Really, what is it? Seriously, what is it? We get these low-life losers of draft picks in the first round. What it is, I have no idea. So on any of these low-life loser first-round draft picks that don't pan out for the Giants, where do they go? Kansas City. This moron lasted 1 season with the Giants. Then he wound up playing 2 seasons with Kansas City, 2020, 2021. Right? Then we drafted, of course, what's the other moron's name? Who actually helped the Lions beat the Chiefs. He dropped like 3 passes. One of them went for a pick 6. What an absolute piece of trash he is. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Absolute human piece of trash. You stink, Kadarius Toney. But we drafted that moron, Kadarius Toney, and we traded him to who? Kansas City Chiefs. So any worthless piece of trash first round pick we ever get, we just all we got to do is trade him to the Chiefs, right? So I said DeAndre Baker lasted 1 season with the Giants. And then he played 2 seasons with the Chiefs, 2020, 2021, and his career was over. And we traded up in the first round to get this moron. Absolute moron. Well, I said at least Daniel Jones and Sexy Dexy panned out. So then the Giants in the third round, all right, they took Oshane Ximines, right, who's still on the roster. Practice squad, I do believe, but he's still on the roster, right? So can't say, you would have liked to got maybe a little more contribution from him because he's a third round pick. But, I mean, it is what it is. He's still on the roster. Okay. Then, of course, in the fourth round, the Giants took Julian Love. And, fantastic pick. A lot of people actually had him as graded as like a second round pick. Julian Love from Notre Dame. But he played his 4 years with the Giants, and now he's with Seattle. I believe the Giants offered him a contract. I guess it just seemed like he might want to go someplace else. So it is what it is. I mean, he went all the way across the country. He went from New York. Now he's in Seattle. So, I mean, Seattle's a good team. So maybe they'll make something happen this year. We'll have to wait and see. Giants are going to be playing Seattle this year too, so that'll be a good game to watch. But Julian Love was, Mr. Versatility. Actually, Joe Judge called him duct tape because he could do so many things. He could fix so many problems. You could put him anywhere in the secondary. Now, he wasn't an All-Pro, Hall of Famer, Pro Bowl, or nothing like that, but you could put him anywhere in the secondary for the most part, and he would be productive for you. So he was a very, very, very solid pick in the 4th round. As I said, a lot of people thought it was a big steal because a lot of people had him maybe possibly rated to go in the 2nd round. So good pick by Dave Gettleman by taking Julian Love. Then in the 5th round, it's tough to say 2 good picks. We took Ryan Connolly from Wisconsin, who wound up being a linebacker. He played. I'm not sure if he's still out there or not. That I don't know. Played, yeah. Unfortunately, it said past 3 seasons, 2020, 2021, 2022, he played with Minnesota. I'm not sure because now his rookie year is up. His rookie contract's up, so I'm not sure if he's still there or if he's on another team. That I don't know. So please forgive me on that one. But however, unfortunately, what wound up happening, he played in 4 games in 2019 at linebacker, and he had 20 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a quarterback hit. He had a sack, 2 passes defensed, 2 interceptions. I mean, really, once again, we're not talking Dick Butkus here. We're not talking, Lawrence Taylor here. No. But I mean, 5th round pick, right? He played, 4 games. He started in 3, and he had 20 tackles. But I said 2 interceptions, 2 passes defensed, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, a quarterback hit. I mean, just, solid numbers. Solid. Yeah, I said, not an All-Pro, not like that, but just a very solid. Somebody you can, and the most important thing is he's one of those later round picks that you keep on the club, and he would be cheap. You got to have those cheap guys. But somebody like him could be possibly some quality depth. Maybe somebody you can also put on special teams as well, too. He was very good at tackling, right? But unfortunately, he got injured. I think it was his knee. He got injured, and unfortunately, the problem is that when he came back and he was healthy, it was a new regime. He got drafted by Gettleman, and when Shermer was here, and Shermer had him, playing and all that stuff. So, but then when he got healthy and he came back, Joe Judge was here. And for whatever reason, I don't know if after his injury he was still a step slow. I'm not exactly sure because actually he hasn't started a game at all for the Vikings in the past 3 seasons. He's played in 27 games for Vikings, but he hasn't started in any. So, I mean, maybe his injury really hurt his career. I just don't know. But when he came back, the Giants let him go. And then he played with the Vikings. So it is what it is. Now, if he stayed healthy, if he never got injured, would he still be a Giant? Who knows? You don't know. But once again, from Dave Gettleman, a very solid pick. Sadly, he got injured. And so we'll never quite know maybe what happened, but just a 5th round pick, he was a very, very solid pick. Then speaking of solid picks, this next guy was even better than Ryan Connolly, and this guy's still on the team, and good for him. The guy, in a way, got paid, not big bucks, but at least he got paid. So good for you, Darius Slayton, and he's still on the team. 5th year, the 5th round pick, and actually was it 3 out of the 4 years he led the Giants in receiving. He led the Giants in receiving yards last season. So, and he's still on the team. For a 5th round pick, a very solid pick. Still fast, right? Still can open the game up, right? A very good pick. Outstanding by Dave Gettleman. This was a very good draft from Dave Gettleman for the most part, except for that DeAndre Baker debacle. Let's jump up and grab that, But it is what it is. All right, then the last 3, you got the 6th round, and then you got 2 7th round picks. He took Corey Ballantyne, a cornerback from Washburn. And Corey Ballantyne, yeah. Let's see here. La, la, la. Let's see here. He played 2019 all with the Giants, and in 2020 he played with the Giants and the Jets. First 9 games of the season he played with the Giants, and then his final 6 games of the 2020 season he played with the Jets. 2021 he was with Detroit. 2022 last season he was with Green Bay. I don't know if he's on the team this year or not. I'm not sure if he's still with Green Bay or not, but basically he's played 4 seasons in the NFL, and he's been on 4 different teams. Hasn't latched on to a team. But 6th-round pick, he played 4 seasons. He might still be in the NFL. That I don't know. But pretty much for the most part, he's been like a special teamer. He's had like some kickoff returns. He started what? He started 4 games in the NFL. That's all at defensive back. Now, all 4 of them with the Giants. So he has not started a game with another team yet. So, as I said, I'm not sure if he's still in the NFL or not. But last year he was with Green Bay. So, I mean, then again, what you can say it wasn't a great pick, but then maybe it was. I mean, 6th-round pick. He's played at least 4 seasons in the NFL. For a 6th-round pick, I guess that's not all that bad. But unfortunately, most of it wasn't with the Giants. Then he took George Asafo-Ajayi, I think how you pronounce it. It was a tackle from Kentucky in the 7th round. He never made it in the NFL. Neither did this next guy, Chris Slayton. We took 2 Slaytons in the 2019 draft. We took Darius Slayton in the 5th round. Then we took Chris Slayton, the defensive tackle from Syracuse, in the 7th round. And neither did Ajayi, I think, or Ajayi. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce it. Adgei. Or Chris Slayton. Neither one of them made it in the NFL. So it is what it is. But for the most part, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Actually, all we made 10 picks. The last 2 never made it. The first 8, all 8 of them made it in the NFL, and only one, DeAndre Baker, only played 3 seasons. All 7 of the 8 played at least 4 seasons. As I said, some of them might all still be playing. I'm not exactly sure. But so I mean, it wasn't too bad. Once again, is Dave Gettleman. His draft picks were a little bit better than Jerry Reese's. A little bit better. All right, so let's go here. So that was the Giants draft picks. I mean, it wasn't bad. Wasn't bad. The thing was that the Giants offense wasn't. It was very middle of the pack. They scored 21.3 points per game, which was 18th out of 32. So right in the middle of the pack. The problem was their defense was atrocious. The defense gave up 28.2 points per game, 30th. Now, Pat Shermer's an offensive-minded coach. So, I mean, but it was just not a good season at all. Actually, kind of odd in a way, because both Eli Manning and Daniel Jones both completed 61.9% of their passes. Let's see. Eli Manning started 4 games, and he was 1-3. He had, it was just 4 games. He had 1,042 yards passing. He had 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Daniel Jones, he played in 13 games. The first game he played in was basically, I think he was on like 1 drive. What game of it was against the Cowboys, which was week 1. The Giants were losing 35-17. They lost 35-17. So the game was out of hand. So basically what Shermer wanted to do was get Daniel Jones in there just for at least a drive. I know he played, obviously, for at least a drive. I'm not sure if it was a little more than that or not, but it was at least a drive in the Dallas Cowboy game, which was the first game of the season. So he played in 13 games, but he actually started in 12 of them. It said he completed 61.9% of his passes, had 3,000 yards, 3,027 passing yards. He had 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Of course, he was a turnover machine, had a lot of fumbles and 12 interceptions. But his rookie season in 12 games, He threw 24 touchdowns. So his rookie season, he averaged 2 touchdown passes a game. This was with Pat Shurmur. And this was without Odell Beckham Jr. Because we got rid of him. So he averaged 2 touchdown passes a game. Last season, he had a very, very good season, but he actually didn't even average a touchdown a game. He played 16 games. He threw 15 touchdown passes. So, but he only had 5 interceptions. So, okay. So the Giants overall had 4,000 yards passing. They gave up 4,471 yards passing. The Giants had 30 touchdown passes, but they also gave up 30 touchdown passes as well. As once again, the Giants defense, they only produced 10. Last year, though, they had like 5 or 6 interceptions all last season. Well, in 2019, their defense only got 10. Not much on the interception department there. As I said, Saquon still led the way. Saquon missed a few games. He missed 3 games, but he still won it with 1,000 yards rushing. He had 1,003 yards rushing. He averaged 4.6 yards a carry. He caught 52 passes. He did have 91 receptions in his rookie season, but this year he had 52. Let's see. And the only other running backs from him, he had Elijah Penny at 39 yards rushing. Javarius Allen at 36 yards rushing. Wayne Gallman at 110 yards rushing, and John Hillman at 91 yards rushing. But for the most part, most of it was Saquon. Daniel Jones had 279 yards rushing as well. So actually, Daniel Jones was second on the team in rushing yards, but Saquon had 1,003. The Giants averaged a little over 100 yards, rushing yards a game. They gave up 113 rushing yards a game. But, I mean, for the most part, they averaged 4.7 yards a carry. Not too bad, not too shabby. But I said, let's see, Wayne Gallman had 11 receptions, Saquon had 52. Sterling Shepard had 57. Evan Ingram had 44. Golden Tate had 49. Benny Fowler, remember him? He had 23. Darius Slayton had 48. He led the team in reception yards. He had 740 receiving yards. He also led the team in touchdown receptions with 8. Basically had 48 catches. 1 out of every 6 catches went for a touchdown. Caden Smith, remember him, the old tight end there? Good, all right? I liked him. He had 31 receptions. Cody Latimer, he had 24 receptions. Rhett Ellison, right? He had 18. There was quite a few other guys. Cody Core, T.J. Jones, Russell Shepard, and Scott Simonson. Other guys had DeMar Scott had 2 receptions. So, but a lot of guys with receptions. I mean, the Giants, they scored some points, right? Alijah Rosas, he was horrible this season. The year before, he had a phenomenal season kicking. This year, he was 12 out of 17 kicking field goals, 70.6%. Not very good. He also missed 4 extra points. He was 35 out of 39 kicking extra points. Not very good at all. Riley Dixon, our punter, had a very good season. Averaged 46.1 yards per punt, 42.3 net. So actually, they only gave basically an average of 4 yards on return. Very, very good season by Riley Dixon. And also, he only had 2 touchbacks, and he put 29 punts inside the 20-yard line. 42% of his punts wound up staying inside the 20-yard line. Very, very good season. Let's see here. What do we got now? The Giants defense only had 36 sacks. The offensive line gave up 43. Let's see. Well, I'm trying to think. What do we got? Does this show? No, it doesn't. I'm trying to think. Oh, fumbles. Oh, yeah. There we go. Fumbles. Yeah. Daniel Jones had 19 fumbles. So he had 12 interceptions, but he also had 19 fumbles. So they didn't lose all the fumbles, but between the interceptions and the fumbles, he had 31 altogether. And that's 31 basically in 12 games. So, that's like 2.5 a game, 2.5 between fumbles and interceptions and all, 2.5 a game. So basically every 2 games, he had 5 between turnovers and fumbles. Not acceptable at all. 31. 19 fumbles and 12 interceptions. But as we know, he's gotten so much better at that. So much better at that. But also the talent around him has gotten better too. The offensive line got better. It was a little bit, wasn't quite as good as it was a few years ago. You know what I mean? Because remember, we didn't have Andrew Thomas, because Andrew Thomas, would come the next season, right? So, but yeah, I mean, it's just, the talent. As I said, we traded. Well, we did have Kevin Zeitler. We traded for Kevin Zeitler. Right, so I wish we still have him, because he was a guard, but we had to get rid of him a couple of years ago. I think basically for salary cap purposes. But if we had him, he's a good guard, But it is what it is. So that was that's the stats and all that. So let's go over the season here. All right, so it was not very special. As I said, this is the game that Daniel Jones got in. We lost 35-17 the first game in Dallas. Right? And Daniel Jones got in. Let's see. What doesn't say. I won't say how many drives, but I'll say how many passes he threw here. Daniel Jones. He was 3 out of 4 for 17 yards, so nothing crazy. His longest pass was 6 yards, so he kept stuff short. Actually, Eli did well. He was 30 out of 44 for 306 yards. He only had 1 sack. Saquon had 120 yards rushing. Evan Ingram had 100. Evan Ingram caught 11 passes for 116 yards. Cody Latimer had 74 yards receiving. I mean, had some good numbers. Really, really good numbers. Just Dak Prescott had 405 yards passing. He was 25. I'm just going to show you how horrible our defense is. He was 25 out of 32 passing, 405 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he didn't get sacked at all. We just couldn't stop him. We had 2 turnovers. Let's see here. Well, the Giants were actually winning 7-0, and then they were down 21-7. And pretty much the game was over. After that, the Giants were losing 35-10 going into the fourth quarter. Wayne Gallman scored on a 2-yard rush, make it 35-17. I think that's then they had Daniel Jones in there toward the end, but it was pretty much all over. All right, the second game we played Buffalo at home. We lost 28-14. So then the Giants started off 0-2, and this is where they thought, right? I guess somewhere along the line, you got to make the decision to pull the plug. And the way it was back in 2004, the Giants were 5-4, still in the playoff hunt, and they decided to pull the plug on the season, take Kurt Warner, the future Hall of Fame quarterback, put him on the sideline drinking Kool-Aid, and let's put Eli Manning in the game. Let's basically give up the rest of the season, right? And it panned out for the Giants, right? So after just 2 games, the Giants were 0-2. I guess they think they weren't going anywhere or whatever, so they decided to pull the plug on the season, take Eli Manning and end his career, basically. They make this where basically would be his final season, and let's insert Daniel Jones, and it worked out really well. The first 2 games he played in, he won. Holy cow, Batman! The first game against Tampa Bay had it was a very exciting game. The Giants were losing. What was it? 31-25. And the Giants got the ball, and they started marching down the field. And I believe it was 4th down. I believe it was. And I forgot, they were around somewhere around the 7-yard line or somewhere around there. And Daniel Jones, he dropped back the pass, and he just the defense for the Buccaneers just pretty much opened up, right? It was 4th down. They sent everybody out. I believe it was 4th down, right? And Daniel Jones dropped back to pass. The line opened up. There was a huge hole up the center. So Daniel Jones took a few steps back. I guess he looked and he saw like Moses parting the Red Sea, and he just took off and he's running toward the end zone, and he was going to make it. So as he crossing the goal line, he's got his hand raised with the ball up in the air. And so he put the Giants in the lead. We kicked the extra point. We were up 32-31. And the Bucs went down. I think they might have missed a field goal, but they got the ball back, and I think they were driving down. I think they missed a field goal, but so the Giants wound up winning the first game. And it was a fantastic game for Daniel Jones. I mean, he was 23 out of 36, 336 yards. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. He got sacked 5 times. We had no interceptions. I mean, things were, really looking pretty good. I'm like, wow, this is not too bad. Then the next week, the Giants would host the Washington Redskins, and they'd wind up winning 24-3. And it's like, wow, holy cow. I mean, the defense actually, this is like one of the few games the defense actually showed up. They held Washington to 8 first downs. I mean, just really, really good. Daniel Jones wasn't quite as good this game. Well, this was also the Dwayne Haskins, Daniel Jones game, because a lot of people thought that for the Giants should have taken Dwayne Haskins because he was from Ohio State. He completed 70% of his passes, yada, yada, yada. But as we see as time goes by, Dwayne Haskins shouldn't have been a first-round draft pick. Yeah, he was not a first-round draft pick. And, of course, the Redskins made him a first-round draft pick, and they were wrong. Okay, so this wound up being a Daniel Jones versus Dwayne Haskins contest, and the Giants wound up winning. Daniel Jones, once again, a nice game. He had 2 interceptions. Let's see. This is also when Saquon was injured, so Saquon didn't play in this game. Wayne Gallman took his place. But so the Giants, played 2 games with Daniel Jones as starting, and they were 2-0. All right, here we go, baby. Right? No, this is where it all came crashing down to an end here. The final next week they played Minnesota at home, and they lost 28-10. Let's see here. Daniel Jones didn't do too bad in this game. Kirk Cousins outplayed him. Kirk Cousins was 22 out of 27, 306 yards. Good game for Kirk. Daniel Jones was 21 out of 38 for 182 yards. Yeah. He was taking his lumps. All right, so the next game, let's say the Giants, who did they lose to here? They played the Patriots. This was a Monday night or Sunday night game. What was this? This was, my bad. This was a Thursday night game, okay, in New England. But however, Daniel Jones continued his streak of, if you want to call it that, of touchdown passes by a rookie. Right, in this game, he threw one to Golden Tate, but the Giants lost 35-14. Actually, it was 21-14 going into the fourth quarter. But the Giants didn't score at all in the second half. They scored 14 points in the second quarter, and that was pretty much it. The Patriots scored twice in the fourth quarter and made it 35-14. But Daniel Jones did throw a touchdown pass to Golden Tate here. He had a little bit of a streak going as far as throwing touchdown passes by a rookie quarterback. All right, this next game here, the Giants would lose to the Cardinals 27-21 to fall to 2-5. This was should have been, let's see here. Okay, this was the Kyler Murray Daniel Jones, because Kyler Murray was drafted number 1, I believe, overall. And let's see here. Yeah, Kyler Murray was drafted number 1, and Daniel Jones was drafted number 6. And with this win here, like people are like, everybody, Kyler Murray's definitely the better quarterback. He was drafted number 1. He beat the Giants. Yeah, he's definitely no, he's not. Daniel Jones was 22 out of 35, 223 yards. He got sacked 8 times. The offense line was absolutely pathetic in this game. I would take your hat off. I mean, the Cardinals were the better team. They won. Good for them. But as I said, I remember some people were saying, Kyler Murray's better quarterback. Now, all right, so the Giants after this, they fell to 2-5. Then the next game, the Giants they lost to the Detroit Lions, as we do seem like all the time. They lost 31-26 to the Lions in Detroit. All right, then the next game. So the Giants were 2-6. The Giants, next game, they would lose once again to the Dallas Cowboys. This time the Giants were home. And it was the Monday night game. So Monday. There's another one of games, of course, where Dak Prescott beat the Giants. He was 22 out of 35, 257 yards, 3 touchdowns. Another stellar game. Ezekiel Elliott had 139 yards rushing. Daniel Jones was 26 out of 41, 210 yards, nothing fantastic. But once again, the Giants would lose to the Cowboys, as almost all the time. Hopefully not this Sunday now. So now the Giants are 2-7. Next week, the Giants would lose to the Jets, 34-27. The Giants were winning 27-21, and then the Jets scored a field goal, a touchdown, then a field goal to wind up winning it and putting the game on away. Daniel Jones in this game was 26 out of 40, 308 yards, 4 touchdown passes, no interceptions. He got sacked 6 times. Once again, the offensive line is putrid. Saquon Barkley ran the ball 13 times for 1 yard. That just goes to show you how absolutely pathetic the offensive line is. Absolutely pathetic. You got Saquon Barkley, 1 yard rushing, and Daniel Jones got sacked 6 times. Daniel Jones had a fantastic game, 308 yards, passing 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, and we still lost because the offensive line and the defense is absolutely horrible. All right, so now the Giants are 2-8. So the next week they would play and lose to the Chicago Bears, 19-14. They went to Chicago, and they lost. The Giants, actually had a 7-0 lead. Daniel Jones threw a couple touchdown passes. Daniel Jones was 21 out of 36, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. But, as usual, the Giants just lost another. So now the Giants are 2-9. So now the next week, the Giants played and lost to the Green Bay Packers at home. They lost 31-13. I'm not sure if this was the snow game. It was a game that had some snow in it. It might have been this one. The Green Bay was 17-13 in the third quarter, but the Packers scored 2 touchdowns in the final quarter that blow the game wide open. Daniel Jones in this game here was 20 out of 37, 240 yards. He had 3 interceptions. They were, I'm sure, very, very costly interceptions. So that'll get you. All right, so now the Giants are now 2-10. Following week, of course, the Giants. Well, now this one was Eli Manning, I believe, played in this one against the Eagles. So the Giants played in Philadelphia, and as always, they usually do. They lost to the Eagles 23-13. However, it was in overtime. Fortunately, the Giants were up 17-3 at the half, and they couldn't score another point the rest of the game. Couldn't score a point in the third quarter. Couldn't score a point in the fourth quarter. Couldn't score a point in the overtime. Had they scored a point, 1 point, that's all I'm asking for. In either the third quarter, fourth quarter, or the overtime, they would have won the game. Couldn't score a point in the second half or overtime, or else they would have won the game. Absolutely pathetic. Then we lost to Carson Wentz, of all people. Wow. But Eli tried. All right, so now the next guy, so now the Giants are 2-11. But now they finally said that's their 9-game losing streak. So the following week, in their 14th game of the season, they would snap the streak against the Miami Dolphins. Eli Manning started and played against the Miami Dolphins at home. The Giants would win 36-20. So now the Giants are 3-11. Good old Eli Manning. Good for you, brother. We beat Ryan Fitzpatrick, the Magic Man. Eli was 20 out of 28, 283 yards, 2 touchdowns. He didn't throw 3 interceptions. But Saquon had 112 yards rushing. Javorius Allen's had 28 yards rushing as well, too. So, so Eli stepped up. The defense played well enough. The Dolphins were 3-11, too, after this game. So both the teams stunk. But, Eli went out a winner. So good for him. Thankfully. So we got 2 games left. All right. And let's see here. 2, right? The following week, the Giants. This was a good one. Overtime. Caden Smith had at least 2 touchdown receptions. I know Daniel Jones threw for 4 or 5. The Giants won 41-35 in overtime. Daniel Jones threw 5 touchdown passes, 352 yards, 5 touchdown passes. Caden Smith had 2 touchdowns, too. He had the game winner, too, in overtime. But Daniel Jones, 28 of 42, 352 yards, 5 touchdowns, only got sacked once, no interceptions, which was huge. Saquon Barkley, 189 yards rushing. Once again, the Giants played against Case Keenum, but they also went up against Dwayne Haskins once again, who many people thought the Giants should have drafted. And so they had a couple different quarterbacks in there, but it wound up being a very exciting game, And it went to overtime, and the Giants with Cade Smith catching what was it? It's like a 3-yard touchdown pass from Daniel Jones. So Daniel Jones had some good games. He had some good games, As a matter of fact, I think he's the only quarterback in NFL history. Only quarterback in NFL history. I think it was 3 or 4. It's either 3 games or 4 games in his rookie season where he only quarterback in NFL history where he had at least 300 yards rushing, 300 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. It was either 3 or 4 times he did it during the season. He's the only quarterback in NFL history. Other quarterbacks did it, but other quarterbacks had an interception. Fran Tarkenton was another one who had over 300 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, but he had an interception in one of his games. Daniel Jones is the only quarterback in NFL history, his rookie season, to have, it was either 3 or 4 games in his rookie season. We had 300 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. So, he's the only quarterback in NFL history to do that. All right, so then the Giants in their final game of the season, once again, they would lose to the Eagles. This time they were at home. They lost. Actually, it was a close game. It was tied 17-17 going into the 4th quarter. The Eagles scored 17 points in the final quarter. Of course, Boston Scott scored 3 touchdowns against the Giants. 3 touchdowns. The guy can't score. He can't gain a yard against anybody else. Can't score a touchdown against anybody else. But he scored 3 touchdowns in this game against the Giants. Let's see what Daniel Jones have here. 28 out of 47, 301. But he had 1 touchdown, but he had 1 interception as well too. So. Yes, I mean, he took his lumps. There was certainly some bad, but you can also see some glimpses of hope as well, too, as far as, what possibly he could do for the team. As I said, he had some very, very good games. But he had some bad games. He had a lot of fumbles. He certainly had to clean up on that without question. But as you also see, is that it does help to have talent. And, their offensive line was not very good, and they did not have a ton. And they traded away their best wide receiver. They had Odell Beckham Jr. and they traded him away. Daniel Jones could have used Odell Beckham Jr. without question, right? As what we saw here last night in the opening game of the season. Detroit Lions went into Kansas City and knocked off Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs 21-20. Why did they do that? Well, because Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, his best wide receiver, tight end, didn't play. So basically, he had to throw to the one moron was Kadarius Toney, who dropped like 3 passes. One of them went for pick 6 because he's a moron. But he didn't have anybody really super special to throw. He didn't have a good, fantastic weapon. And what happens? Right? He suffered. And the Chiefs only scored 20 points, and they lost. It happens to everybody. If you don't have the weapons, it's tough to win in this league. And that's what Daniel Jones, for the most part, his first bunch of years did not have weapons. Phenomenal weapons, really good weapons. This year he does. So this year we're expecting more from him. And I think we're going to get it from him. But in the beginning, I said there was a weapon there the year before. They traded him away. They traded away Odell Beckham Jr., who really, really, really would have helped Daniel Jones out a lot. But so Daniel Jones had to work with the best. What he had, did not have phenomenal talent, exceptional talent as far as wide receivers, did not have a phenomenal offensive line, and his place suffered from it. It is what it is. But as I said, just by pointing that out is that even Patrick Mahomes, who a lot of people put up there with Jesus, and he's phenomenal, but if he doesn't have weapons to throw the ball to, he suffers, and he becomes very human, shall we say, very human. He only had 226 passing yards this year, this past night against the Lions. Very, very pedestrian because he didn't have any weapons. Take away your weapons, and most quarterbacks are very human, very pedestrian. All right, so let's see the 2019 season. What does Wikipedia have to say about the 2019 season? 2019 season was the 100th season in the history of the National Football League and the 54th of the Super Bowl era. The season began on September 5th, 2019 with the NFL kickoff game in which the Green Bay Packers defeated the Chicago Bears. The season concluded with Super Bowl, the league's championship game on February 2nd, 2020 at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida, in which the American Football Conference champion Kansas City Chiefs defeated the National Football Conference champion San Francisco 49ers to win their second Super Bowl championship. This was the final NFL season with the 12-team playoff format. 2019 season was also the last season for the Oakland Raiders after playing in Oakland for 47 non-consecutive years before their relocation to Las Vegas for 2020 with the completion of their new stadium, Allegiant Stadium. The Raiders were previously approved for relocation in March of 2017, but spent the last 2 seasons at Ring Central Coliseum. Ring Central. It was like the Oakland Coliseum. Ring Central. I freaking hate this stupid names. Absolutely stupid names. Sponsored names. Ring Central. Cut me a break. All right, so the AFC. Of course, as usual, the Patriots won the AFC East with a record of 12-4. The Buffalo Bills were a wild card with a record of 10-6. AFC North, the Ravens with a record of 14-2. They won. And the AFC South, the Texans won with a record of 10-6. The Tennessee Titans with a record of 9-7 were the other wild card team. In the AFC West, the Chiefs with a record of 12-4 won that division. So in the playoffs, Tennessee beat New England 20-13. And Houston beat Buffalo 22-19 in overtime. So now in the divisional round, Tennessee knocked off Baltimore 28-12, and Kansas City whooped up on Houston to 51-31. So in the championship game, Kansas City beat Tennessee 35-24, sending Kansas City to the Super Bowl. And the NFC East was won by the Eagles, a record of 9-7. NFC North, Packers won that with a record of 13-3. Minnesota with a record of 10-6, got one of the wild cards. New Orleans Saints with a record of 13-3 won the NFC South. And the San Francisco 49ers with a record of 13-3. They won the NFC West, and Seattle Seahawks with a record of 11-5. They were the other wild card team. So now in the playoffs, Seattle beat Philadelphia 17-9, and Minnesota in overtime beat New Orleans 26-20. So now in the divisional round, Green Bay knocked off Seattle at Lambeau Field 28-23. And San Francisco knocked off Minnesota 27-10. So in the championship game, and as usual, Green Bay can never beat San Francisco. Aaron Rodgers can never beat San Francisco, whatever the reason is. And this is another instance here at Levi's Stadium. San Francisco beat Green Bay in the NFC Championship 37-20, sending San Francisco to the Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl, it wasn't bad. It was rather close, and then the Chiefs blew it wide open in the fourth quarter. I think like the last 10 minutes, they scored like 3 touchdowns. My bad. Last 6 minutes, they scored 3 touchdowns. Let's see here. San Francisco went up 3-0 on a field goal. Patrick Mahomes 1-yard touchdown run put Kansas City ahead 7-3. Then Kansas City got a field goal to go up 10-3. Then in the final score in the first half, Kyle Juszczyk, I think that's how you pronounce it, 15-yard touchdown reception from Jimmy G to tie the score at 10 going into the half. San Francisco kicked a field goal by Robbie Gould to make it 13-10. And then the end of third quarter, the 49ers scored on a 1-yard touchdown run to make it 20-10. So going into even like with 7 minutes left to go in the game, 49ers were up 20-10 by 10 points. With 6 minutes and 13 seconds left to go, Travis Kelce caught a touchdown reception from Patrick Mahomes to make it 20-17. 49ers got the ball back. Couldn't do nothing with it. They just whatever they couldn't score in the fourth quarter. The Chiefs got the ball back, and Damian Williams on a 5-yard touchdown run, 5-yard touchdown reception from Patrick Mahomes, put the Chiefs up 24-20. And then the 49ers once again got the ball back. Let's see here. With the Chiefs went up 24-20 with 2:44 left in the game. With a chance to mount a game-winning drive, the 49ers drove to the Chiefs' 49-yard line, but turned the ball over on downs after 3 incomplete passes and Garoppolo getting sacked on 4th and 10 by Chiefs linebacker Frank Clark with 1:33 left in the game. Trying to run out the clock with the ground game, Williams carried the ball on the next 2 plays, first picking up 4 yards, and then he went the distance on a 38-yard touchdown, increasing the Kansas City lead to 31-20 with 1:12 remaining and essentially putting the game away. Chiefs defensive back Kendall Fuller made an interception on the 49ers following drive, allowing the Chiefs to run out the clock and secure the Super Bowl, their first in 50 years and their second overall. Yeah, because they won Super Bowl 4 over the Minnesota Vikings 23-7 in Super Bowl 4, 1969. So this was the 2019 season. So it was exactly so. Poor Chiefs fans had to wait 50 freaking years before they won a Super Bowl, another Super Bowl. Well, the Chiefs, they were the winningest team in the AFL in the 60s, and they won the most. They won 3 AFL championship games, and they won the most championship games in the AFL, which went from 1960 to 69. The Chiefs won 60, 61. They won in 62. They won in 66, and they won in 69. So they won 3. Actually, when they won in 62, I believe it was 62. It was an overtime game. They were actually the Dallas Texans then in 62. And I think it's 63. I think they moved to Kansas City. But they won 3 championships in the AFL. So, in those first 10 seasons from 1960 to 69, the Texans/Chiefs fans won 3 times in 10 years. So they were used to winning. But then from 1969 to 2019, there was nothing. So that finally in 2019, they got off the schneid. They won first time in 50 seasons. Good for them. Congratulations, Kansas City. They were a very good team. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes, as we know, started coming on, right? And as he is today, he's the sheriff. He's the new sheriff in town. He is the man without question. He wasn't last night against the Detroit Lions because, as we saw, with no weapons, it's kind of tough to win a football game. So even Patrick Mahomes has a hard time winning football games when he has very few weapons. So, but that wraps up the 2019 season for the New York Giants. It doesn't get much better in the next two seasons anyway, because the change would be a coming, right? We out with Pat Shurmur and in, unfortunately, with Joe Judge. So, but although the Giants would come very, very close to making the playoffs, but of course, thanks to the Philadelphia Eagles, they kind of pulled the rug underneath the Giants' legs, and it is what it is. So, so that wraps up the 2019 season for the New York Giants. I'll be back again tomorrow night with the 2020 season for the New York Giants, which just happened to be the 96th season in the history of the New York Giants. I'll see you then.